J.Lo has made many enemies in her world, with many being those who work for her. They've leaked some awful details about her and shown just how horrible she is. Now, Gilly Liar had been a longtime assistant to J.Lo before she quit and went to work for Mariah Carey in 2013. It's been said that the main reason why she quit was because of J.Lo's boyfriend at the time, Casper Smart. Apparently, Casper was allowed to do whatever he wanted in the house, and this included him mistreating the staff members. That upset Gilly, a source told Radar Online. Casper always insisted that Jennifer's staff call him Mr. Smart, and even demanded that Gilly get him drinks. So it appears that J.Lo let her assistant get disrespected, which is just not okay at all, and it shows what kind of person she really is. Then there's the time when she got everyone to turn on her longtime makeup artist Scott Barnes. There had been a leak on J.Lo's team as they exposed to the press that J.Lo was planning on getting married to Marc Anthony. Now, J.Lo claimed that Scott was one of the employees who betrayed her, so she fired him and made everyone ignore him. The thing was, they never asked him about it though, they just fired him. Now, during an interview on the Jeff Probst show, he claimed that he didn't know anything about the wedding and wasn't the leak, but J.Lo's team still shunned him. Scott said, "Nobody would talk to me, it was like I had the plague." Then, when the truth came out that Scott did not leak the news or even know about the wedding ahead of time, he received a phone call from Jen, who Scott claimed said the following. It was like, "Hey, it was a big misunderstanding, you know we have a lot of stuff coming up and I really miss you, so let's just get back to work." Although Scott was very gracious about the whole thing, it appears that J.Lo did not apologize to him, and it's just crazy to me that he went back working for her and that no one put a stop to her behavior. Now, near the end of last year, Elon Musk was speaking on the Joe Rogan Experience when he began talking about J.Lo's criticism of the recently elected president and his remarks about Puerto Ricans. Elon then brought up J.Lo's personal history with Diddy as she dated him from 1999 to 2001. He said J.Lo was like his ex-girlfriend, and now all of a sudden she's warning people about this person, but how many people did she warn about Diddy? Oh, 0. Maybe we shouldn't trust her opinion. He added people in the music industry had to know that Diddy was doing these things. Where's that accountability? They had to know. Now, Ojani Noah, J.Lo's ex-husband, claimed that she was involved in Diddy's freak-offs that came up in his federal indictment. "I'm not on the list," Ojani wrote on Instagram. To those people and media outlets asking if I ever went or participated in that piece of Diddy's freak-off parties, no and no, never. But my ex-wife, Jennifer Lopez, aka J.Lo, did. Ask her. But in a shocking turn of events, one of her past assistants has come to her defense. Thea D'Souza, who worked with J.Lo on the 2002 film Made in Manhattan, posted a statement on Threads that said, "If you knew Jennifer Lopez, if you ever worked with her like I did, or if you were close with people who are like family to her like I am, you would know she did not have any idea about Diddy. She barely drinks, she's not a partier, she isn't a good time girl, she's a workaholic who uplifts women, and who was charmed by him for a brief time in her life." Now, Thea emphasized that J.Lo does not deserve to be conflated with Diddy's shocking and criminal misdeeds. So Thea claims that J.Lo is innocent in all of this, but she's the only one who's spoken out. You see, J.Lo is refusing to speak about her ex Diddy. She walked out of an autograph signing at AFI Fest 2024 when someone in the crowd asked her if she had any comments about Diddy and the allegations. The US Mirror tabloid reported that the singer left immediately, despite fans' pleas that she stay. And don't expect her to say anything. In May, after video footage of Diddy hurting his ex-girlfriend Cassie Ventura was brought to light, J.Lo stayed silent. Now, many of Diddy's other exes have spoken out against him, but not J.Lo. Though tabloid sources claim that the Cassie footage disgusted her, J.Lo was silent on the subject and has stayed that way. Sources are saying that Jen is not going to address the accusations or take time to talk about them because it's not her story to tell. If an interviewer brought it up, she would cross that path as and when it happens, but she won't address it publicly and will not put herself in that conversation on purpose. Then there was the fact when J.Lo and Marc Anthony's twins needed nannies, J.Lo gave them a grueling schedule. Now, normally people who make a lot of money, like J.Lo for example, have numerous people who help them with everyday tasks, especially childcare, as it can be so difficult. But Jennifer expected one nanny, not not only to take care of both twins, but to work 16-hour days, 7 days a week, as an insider told the National Enquirer. Now, unsurprisingly, the first nanny she hired left after just a week of working for her. They hired her second nanny, who was wonderful with the twins, but she couldn't take working such long hours without a break, a source said. So then she quit after just a week as well. And yeah, I don't blame them for quitting. I mean, that schedule is just unreasonable. Then in 2022, a girl named Kyla posted a TikTok saying that her dad worked for a company that J.Lo would hire for drivers. But apparently he heard so many bad stories about the star that he never wanted to be her driver. It said that J.Lo does not allow her drivers to look or talk to her. She's also so strict that if the driver looks through the rearview mirror and makes eye contact with her, she will freak out. Not to mention that she has a crazy rule that her luggage cannot touch the ground. Now, it appears that this story is real though, because one of J.Lo's former drivers sued her. Hakab Menokian claims he started driving for J.Lo and Mark Anthony in 2005. He said that the three of them had such a great bond that they convinced him to shut down his company and work exclusively as J.Lo's personal head of security and transportation. He claimed that J.Lo agreed to pay him more than $200,000 per year, but things went downhill in 2011. This is when Hakab claims he was forced to spend time with J.Lo's manager, Benny Medina. He claims that Benny hated him and even found a way to convince J.Lo to demote him, taking away his security responsibilities and making him J.Lo's LA driver, and that was it. Now, he says that he was basically forced to resign and then sued J.Lo and Benny for unspecified damages. J.Lo then countersued him for extortion, but her suit was dismissed in December 2012. Now, the two eventually settled on undisclosed terms, but that honestly just sounds like a horrible situation. And finally, one of J.Lo's backup singers, Julia Wang, posted on TikTok how horrible it was to work with the star. She said she was so mean to her backup singers. If you were pretty or if you were Latina, like, game over, she hated you. Julia also said that J.Lo refused to talk or even look at any of the singers during their rehearsals, except for an occasional eye roll or scoff, which is just crazy. She acted like a bully. Can you imagine spending time with someone working in a closed setting every single day for months, and this person never even acknowledging you or acting like you exist? She asked. And honestly, no, I can't. That sounds like a horrible work environment. Now, she also shared that J.Lo changes the way she acts when there are men present, and Julia added that she only treats the women poorly because she views them as competition. It seems like if you have anything to do with J.Lo, it would just be horrible. Well, one of J.Lo's past assistants has come forward and addressed J.Lo's involvement in Diddy's crime ring. And let me tell you, it's not what you think at all. Thea D'Souza, who worked with J.Lo on the 2002 film Made in Manhattan, posted a statement on Threads recently that said, "If you knew Jennifer Lopez, if you ever worked with her like I did, or if you were close with people who are like family to her like I am, you would know she did not have any idea about Diddy. She barely drinks, she's not a partier, she isn't a good time girl, she's a workaholic who uplifts women and who was charmed by him for a brief time in her life." Now, she emphasized that J.Lo does not deserve to be conflated with Diddy's shocking and criminal misdeeds. So, Thea claims that J.Lo is innocent in all of this, which is a great thing, and it's honestly good to see someone having J.Lo's back at a time like this. They've been digging up photos of J.Lo at parties and have been speculating a lot. Now, besides proof that J.Lo had been to some of his white parties, as she was his girlfriend, there's been zero proof that she had anything to do with the crimes Diddy committed, nor that she even knew about them. While her ex-assistant has stood up for her, J.Lo, for her part though, has stayed silent. And she probably will be for the time being, as she doesn't really address rumors or drama. It's obviously a sensitive subject and is something that the star doesn't want to discuss. So if you meet J.Lo, I'd suggest not asking her about Diddy. Besides, if she has something to say, she will say it eventually. It's a very sticky situation that she's in, and nobody is entitled to her opinion on the whole situation. Now, since breaking up with Diddy, J.Lo has claimed that he was unfaithful during their relationship. Now, maybe this is why she won't talk about him. She could still be hurt by all of this. Now, throughout their relationship and after their breakup, J.Lo was aware of rumors that Diddy was cheating on her. When the pair first met, Diddy essentially love-bombed her. He gave her a ton of attention and told her that he loved her almost immediately. J.Lo said this made her uncomfortable at first, but then she fell for him. As their relationship wore on though, the feelings of doubt crept back in. It was the first time I was with someone who wasn't faithful, she told Vibe magazine after the breakup. I was in this relationship with Puff where I was totally crying, crazy, and going nuts. It really took my whole life in a tailspin. Now she grew increasingly concerned about his fidelity, saying, "I never caught him, but I just knew," she said of his cheating. He said he was going to the club for a couple of hours and then he'd never come back that night. Now, Diddy himself has admitted that he was often unfaithful in relationships. In a 2015 appearance on The Breakfast Club, he said his partners would often be frustrated with his behavior. Now, J.Lo later admitted they broke up and got back together far more than the public knew, which honestly isn't healthy at all. But in 2001, the couple ended things for good. It was scary, and we broke up many times before that and got back together and broke up again, and nobody knew about it. Now, it seems like J.Lo is more stressed out about everything regarding this relationship than participating in Diddy's extracurricular activities. Yes, she attended some of his parties, but that was only when they were dating, and she didn't know what was happening behind the scenes. I mean, when J.Lo was asked about Diddy in 2022 when she was on the Wendy Williams show, things got, well, awkward. Wendy asked if she and Diddy would ever get back together, and J.Lo laughed and shook her head as the camera panned to her mother sitting in the audience. Now, J.Lo's mother looked furious as she shouted no while waving her hand back and forth. Now, reposting the clip on Twitter, one fan wrote, "Some of y'all didn't catch J.Lo's mom's reaction when Wendy Williams said this." Yeah, I feel like this says a lot about their relationship. Clearly there was something going on and she didn't want to be associated with him anymore. And the fact that J.Lo's mom doesn't like Diddy, that speaks volumes. Recently, some shocking information was revealed from someone who attended Diddy's exclusive parties. On November 1st, former model Rachel Kennedy appeared on Daily Mail's The Trial of Diddy podcast to share her experience. Now, during her appearance, Rachel revealed that when she met Diddy in the year 2000, Diddy allegedly played J.Lo's music videos on a continuous loop in his hotel room while he was reportedly on the phone with the singer. It was kind of an odd thing to find out that we were watching J.Lo's video, she said, describing it as it's a little bit creepy and very disrespectful. Yeah, I'd have to agree with Rachel on that. Rachel, along with two friends, was invited to Diddy's hotel room for a party after meeting him at Seventh Heaven, a topless club in Japan. She shared that it quickly became clear that this was not the type of party they had expected. Rachel recounted that she and her friends initially found Diddy friendly and decided to stay, even after noticing some wild behavior around them. "We went in, we didn't think anything strange, he was friendly enough, so we decided, okay, we'll just hang out with him," she said. Now, things took a turn though, and it's now believed that this was actually one of Diddy's freak-offs. Rachel went on to say when she and her friends were with Diddy, suddenly one of his bodyguards barged into the room and he looked so violent and angry. He then ejected the women from the room, which came off as a shock to them. She said, "We just couldn't believe what was happening. First of all, how does he have that much access to Puff Daddy's room? That's the first thing I thought. How does he just come in like that?" Looking back at the strange experience, she alleged that the Bad Boy Records founder teaches them the behavior as he's their boss. She added, "He is the puppet master of all of this, and this is why people think it's okay, because he's teaching them that this kind of behavior is acceptable. He's like a cult leader and these people are his disciples," she said. Now, this makes sense, as it's been released that Diddy had plenty of rules his employees had to follow when it came to finding him women. A former party planner who worked with Diddy during 2004 and 2005, who wished to remain anonymous, stated that women attending these parties were subjected to weight checks. "We would do a weigh-in if necessary. The girls had to be young and hot, so I always had a scale nearby in case I needed to make sure. The number was 140 pounds, but if a girl was really tall, there was a little bit of discretion involved, said the planner, adding that other requirements included no flab, no cellulite, no overly pierced or tattooed, and no short hair. Now, the dress code reportedly demanded women wear short dresses with high stilettos being a non-negotiable. No pants, no jeans, no flat shoes. Every girl had to wear a party dress, preferably very short, just enough to cover her butt cheeks but no longer than mid-thigh, cleavage showing. And every single one of them had to be wearing stilettos. That one, there was no exception, high stilettos. The New York Post quoted the planner as saying. Now, it seems like we won't find out more from J.Lo regarding this whole situation unless she's called on to testify in court.
J.Lo, who has famously declared, "Don't be fooled by the rocks that I got, I'm still Jenny from the block," has weathered tales of her alleged snobbery for years. In just one instance reported by the Daily Star, when contractors were hired for a job that could take up to a year on J.Lo's old house, those contractors were reportedly informed that they were not to communicate directly with the international star. A source told the tabloids that she has made it clear that if any of the contractors, drivers, or domestic help make eye contact or speak to her, she will not be impressed. J.Lo's supposed superficial superstar antics apparently extend to service workers who just aren't directly in her employ, but who have the unfortunate one-time experience of being snubbed by her. A source said she doesn't speak to salespeople, she doesn't speak to restaurant people, she doesn't speak to hotel staff, flight attendants, she only talks through her assistants. A United Airlines flight attendant backed up this claim, sharing a similar experience with the singer. "I just said, 'What can I get you to drink?' But Jennifer refused to even acknowledge them." They added that she turned her head away and told her personal assistant, "Please tell him I'd like a Diet Coke and lime." She wouldn't even look at me. Now, according to the sources I found, Jennifer has an extreme thing about people looking at her, other than when she's on stage. Then everybody's gotta look at her. Otherwise, if small, unimportant people look at her and, God forbid, open their little unimportant mouths to speak to her holiness, she does whatever she can to retaliate. If they're servers or anyone she can get fired, she gets them fired. In 2013, J.Lo's morals came into question when it was reported that she earned in the neighborhood of $10 million performing for shady dictators, at least according to news outlets. Also, apparently, the Human Rights Foundation and a lot of folks were very critical of J.Lo's decision to put on a private performance in Turkmenistan for the president at the time, whose government allegedly restricted free speech and imprisoned those who spoke against the nation's alleged corruption. J.Lo's then publicist Mark Young issued a response, however, and the statement made J.Lo's team appear really ill-informed. They said this was not a government-sponsored event or political in nature. The event was vetted by her reps. Had there been knowledge of human rights issues of any kind, Jennifer would not have attended. Well, that statement probably didn't go over well, considering how Human Rights Watch's Rachel Denber, Deputy Director for Europe and Central Asia Division, explained that J.Lo's team didn't have to dig deep for information that would have revealed the controversy surrounding the whole presidential leadership corruption stuff. It was something even J.Lo herself could have discovered. Denber literally said, "Just do a few Google clicks, look up the human rights record, it's right there, it's easy to find." Well, 2 months after the backlash, Young was fired from J.Lo's team. With the whole fiasco going boom in everybody's face, was it possible Young eventually took the fall for what appeared to be some blame shifting after the fact? I think so. Forbes credits makeup artist Scott Barnes with creating the signature technique that became Lopez's iconic glow, which in turn became the preferred look of the era in the early 2000s. The makeup artist has worked with J.Lo since the year 2000, whether it was serving as J.Lo's personal makeup artist for her role in 2019's Hustlers, or for the Super Bowl performance, or whatever it may be. And while their working relationship and friendship spans 2 decades, there was a time when Barnes apparently didn't have her love. Barnes spilled the beans during an interview on the Jeff Probst show after rumors circulated that Barnes and 2 others leaked plans of J.Lo and Anthony's secret marriage. J.Lo's team shunned him. He said, "Nobody would talk to me. It was like I had some sort of disease." When the truth came out that Barnes did not leak the news or even know about the wedding ahead of time, he received a phone call, presumably from J.Lo, whom Barnes claimed said the following: "It was like, hey, it was a big misunderstanding, we have a lot of stuff coming up and I really miss you, so let's just get back to work." And although Barnes was extremely diplomatic in his recounting of the temporary fallout, it's clear that he never received a direct apology, or even a real apology. What's even more interesting is that considering Barnes and Lopez quickly reconciled, he chose not to keep this story about her in-house. So I guess he's the one person she didn't have sign an NDA? Hakkab Manoukian began chauffeuring J.Lo and her then husband Mark Anthony around in 2005 before eventually being promoted to Lopez's staff full-time as her personal head of security and transportation in early 2011, at least according to TMZ. By September of that year, Manoukian was gone from J.Lo's staff, after which he filed a lawsuit for breach of contract and wrongful termination against J.Lo, her company, New Yorkin Productions, and manager Benny Medina. Manoukian claimed his agreement with J.Lo included a $72,000 yearly salary with additional production pay, potentially increasing his compensation to $200,000 per year. But according to tabloids, however, he claimed that he received no production pay or overtime whatsoever. CNN further reported that Manoukian's suit claimed that he dealt with intolerable labor conditions, such as working more than 40 hours a week and being prevented from taking proper meal periods, which forced him to resign. J.Lo filed a countersuit seeking a minimum of $20 million in damages, claiming the former driver was allegedly blackmailing her for $2.8 million as he threatened to expose private information he overheard when chauffeuring her. So the countersuit alleged that he became hostile and angry after J.Lo rejected his desire to lead and appoint members to organize a security team for a music video production. J.Lo's countersuit was dismissed in December of 2012, and the singer ended up settling the original lawsuit for undisclosed terms in February of 2013. Wish we knew the terms though. Gilly Ayer was a longtime assistant for J.Lo until 2013 when she reportedly left, without informing J.Lo she'd been looking elsewhere for work. Quiet quitting. According to sources, Gilly went to work for Jermaine Dupri a week after he joined Mariah Carey's management team. Now, J.Lo and Mariah Carey have been publicly painted as rivals for quite some time, so Gilly jumping ship to Lopez's big nemesis camp seemed to sting a lot. We're talking like butter on a burn a lot. Reports surfaced that J.Lo's then boyfriend Casper Smart allegedly ruffled feathers with a lot of J.Lo's staff. Casper always insisted that all of Jennifer's staff call him Mr. Smart, and even demanded that Gilly get him drinks. At least that's what a source told online sources. So with Jenny from the block allegedly doing nothing to set him straight, that may have been the breaking point as to why Gilly left. Gilly had enough. She was over it. She'd been looking to leave for some time, and as soon as Mariah hired Jermaine, she quit. J.Lo was stunned. Now, Gilly may not have publicly trashed J.Lo, but is there anything colder than a personal assistant leaving a celeb staff on short notice to go work for their rival? So, how bad did this hurt the former Fly Girl? Well, it's unclear, but in 2015, Page Six revealed that J.Lo reportedly had a no Mariah clause in her contract with her manager Benny Medina, barring him from managing Mariah Carey at the same time as her. So, oop. According to at least several of J.Lo's former staff members, she's earned herself the nickname Paylo because she paid her staff a lot less than they can make elsewhere. We're talking like half of what they can make elsewhere. Now this rumor's been going around for years. We're talking like back in 2003, when Jennifer was first with Ben Affleck. They were out in Vegas, they were having a good time, they had a big win, and Ben was feeling generous. He was like, yeah, I'm gonna tip the dealer $2,000. But before the dealer could actually claim the reward, J.Lo was like, no, you get $200. So, why does J.Lo pay her staff so little? She's like, well, you know what? I had to work hard to get my money, so you have to work hard to get yours. Which, like, I'm sorry, that's embarrassing. If you had to work so hard to earn your money, wouldn't you want to make it easier for others because you know how hard it is? Come on, queen. An ex-private airport employee called J.Lo a nightmare person on Twitter before dishing out several stories about negative interactions with the superstar. Twitter user @MoiraWebb claimed she worked at a private airport on Long Island when J.Lo was in her relationship with Mark Anthony. They said, I have so many stories about her being a rude and nasty person. It's gross to say, but each time she fails at anything, it delights me. So, okay, that's like really intense hating. Surely J.Lo couldn't be that bad, right? Wrong. Come on, you've been here long enough today. So Webb told 5 stories about brutal interactions with J.Lo, and these range. We're talking like some were just kind of bizarre, some of them were just plain mean. But it definitely seems like, if you haven't figured it out already, J.Lo doesn't care about people if you're not her. The first story, she's got this standing catering order, even if she's only going like 20 minutes away, and that order needs to have a KFC bucket. So she was flying out in the morning before KFC opened, and her team freaked out that they didn't have the bucket. So this employee was demanded to go get some, was given some cash. They drove like a bat out of hell and begged KFC to open early, make one for her. They were excited it was J.Lo, they made one. But this worker actually didn't have enough cash. They had to give her a senior citizens discount to cover it. And as they're speeding back, they look up, the flight's taking off. Even though they're like, no, we can't leave without it. So they're like, Why did I even have to do that?
Jennifer Lopez has been in a lot of hot water this year, and more things are being revealed, like how she treated her now ex-husband, Ben Affleck, and how demanding she was of her staff when she would go on tour. Now, we all know that J.Lo and Ben got back together and married each other 2 years ago. Now, unfortunately for J.Lo, 2024 was not a good year for the pair, and they actually got divorced. Now, there were several rumors all year about this due to the fact that she canceled her tour and they were selling her house. Turns out it was true though, as on Tuesday, August 20th in LA, J.Lo filed for divorce at County Superior Court. Now, the official separation date is listed as April 26. But there was a tiny problem. OK Magazine said that when the pair wedded in Las Vegas, they didn't tie up their assets. That's right, there was no prenup. At least that's what was alleged. Now, according to the source, Jen's love for Ben was so unconditional at the time, she didn't see a prenup as necessary. Now, this was confirmed this week as TMZ broke the news that there was no prenup in place, which is honestly scary. Now, usually when there is no prenup, the couple would split their assets 50-50, but apparently this is not happening. Now, a settlement they reached was essentially like a prenup, which is good for Jen considering her net worth is much higher than Ben's. Not to mention, a person with knowledge of the matter suggested that Jennifer spent more money during their relationship. The insider alleges J.Lo took on the majority of the financial responsibility. One little known secret is that Jennifer paid for much of their marital expenses, the source claimed. She's adding up all those private jet bills she puts on her plastic, the hotels and meals, clothes, coffee runs, gas. The high cost of living was done on her dime. She paid the lion's share for that $60 million mansion they bought too, they added. Ben took so much money out of her, at least that's what she's saying. And all I can say is, yikes. Then there's also the fact that she's super demanding. Like, honestly, her list of so-called requests are insane. Now, J.Lo seems to be obsessed with the color white, so much so that she demands any dressing rooms to be completely redecorated. And this isn't even an exaggeration. A list with all her demands was leaked, and she demanded to have an all-white dressing room, including white candles, tables, couches, drapes, tablecloths, and flowers. She also requested a large number of candles, which must be either lime blossom or Joe Malone's grapefruit. And this has followed through her entire career. In January of 2016, J.Lo began her residency in Las Vegas and made millions and millions of dollars. But the money wasn't enough for her to sign on. She also requested 3 penthouse suites all next to each other and a playground in her suite for her kids. She also demanded a personal laundry service and for each room to have its own on-call butler wearing all white, in addition to the housekeeping staff signing NDAs. And finally, she requested brand new toilets for the backstage area, and of course, an all-white dressing room. Then there was the fact that it was exposed that she didn't actually go to the Bronx to film a commercial. She just pretended to and used a stunt double. Now, the commercial is from 2011, where J.Lo is seen driving a Fiat 500 Cabero as she travels through the streets of Manhattan to the Bronx, where she grew up. But the ad backfired when it was reported that she never actually went to the Bronx to film the ad, and that a body double stand-in was used instead. And I mean, if you watch the ad knowing this information, it's pretty obvious. But I mean, why not just ditch J.Lo and use another celebrity who would actually show up on set? It's just a bad look and honestly completely embarrassing.
J.Lo and Mariah Carey have been very obvious rivals in the music industry for as long as I can remember. So naturally, when one of J.Lo's assistants left to work with Mariah Carey, J.Lo was not having it. J.Lo had been a longtime assistant to J.Lo before bolting to join Mariah Carey in 2013, and reportedly the key factor in the departure was J.Lo's boyfriend at the time, Casper Smart. Smart allegedly had free reign throughout the house and would treat J.Lo's staff very poorly with no resistance. And that upset Gilly, a source told Radar Online. Casper always insisted that Jennifer's staff call him Mr. Smart, and even demanded that they get him drinks, do things for him. That was not their job. According to several of J.Lo's former staff members, J.Lo earned herself the nickname Paylo because she paid her staff around 50% less than they could make elsewhere. And this rumor's been going on for a year, so I'm talking like way back in 2003 when J.Lo was spotted in Vegas with boyfriend at the time, Ben Affleck. Well, this was the first time. They had a big win. Ben was like, yeah, I'll tip the dealer $2,000. But before the dealer could take that reward, J.Lo was like, $200 instead. Now, folks have asked J.Lo, like, why do you pay your staff so little? She's like, I had to work hard to earn my money. Everybody else should too. And like, honestly, that's just so embarrassing for her. I think if you had to work hard to earn your money, you'd want to make it easier for others because you know how hard it is. It's just entitled behavior. It's gross. Come on, girl. Jacob Manoukian began chauffeuring J.Lo and her then husband Mark Anthony around in 2005 before eventually being promoted to Lopez's staff full-time as her personal head of security and transportation in early 2011, at least according to the sources at TMZ. By September of that year, though, Manoukian was gone from J.Lo's staff, after which he filed a lawsuit for breach of contract and wrongful termination, and this was against J.Lo, her company, and her manager, Benny Medina. Manoukian claimed his agreement with J.Lo included a $72,000 yearly salary with additional production pay, potentially increasing his compensation to $200,000 per year. According to E, however, he claimed that he received no production pay or overtime whatsoever. CNN further reported that the suit claimed he dealt with intolerable labor conditions, such as working more than 40 hours a week and being prevented from taking proper meal periods, which forced him to resign. J.Lo filed a countersuit against Manoukian, seeking $20 million in damages, claiming the former driver was allegedly blackmailing her for $2.8 million, as he threatened to expose private information he overheard when chauffeuring her. The countersuit also alleged that Manoukian became hostile and angry after J.Lo rejected his desire to lead and appoint members to organize a security team for a music video, at least according to The Hollywood Reporter. J.Lo's countersuit was dismissed in December of 2012, and they wound up settling Manoukian's original lawsuit for undisclosed terms in February of 2013. So back in 2002, J.Lo starred in the romantic comedy Made in Manhattan. She was all over the world. She was promoting this, but when she was in London, people were talking, and not about the movie, about her demands. She had very interesting encounters with hotel staff. So she was staying at the Metropolitan Hotel. They were like, okay, this girl is like a class A diva. The hotel staff was like astounded by her lavish and extravagant demands because it was reaching levels they had never seen before. She was asking for thousands of pounds of lemon-scented candles, and also, even if she's traveling a short distance, J.Lo's not walking down the block. She had 7 limousines escort her to lunch at a restaurant that was only 200 yards away. This isn't the only report of her diva behavior though. In 2012, reports surfaced that staff working for her, don't make eye contact with me, don't speak with me. While having work done on her San Fernando Valley home, she was like, yeah, any of the helpers, the drivers, the contractors, do not interact with me. Technically, these rumors were never confirmed, I do have to say that, but like, come on. And reportedly, when flying first class, nobody's gonna bother her, not even the flight attendant, and like, that is their job. One time, somebody was like, oh, would you like a drink? And she did not answer. She instead turned to her assistant and said, please tell him I'd like a Diet Coke and lime. Now, once again, like, girl, you can just talk to somebody, it's not that big of a deal. If you don't want to be interrupted, put on headphones like everybody else. So, J.Lo once had somebody fired for being a fan. Preta Dosh just happened to be cleaning J.Lo's hotel room in Germany during her big 2012 world tour. And like, she was a fan. She was like, hey, like, can I please get your autograph? And 2 of the assistants were like, oh no, girl, don't do it, don't do it. Soon after, Dosh was out of a job, and she knew why. Because a day later, after the request for an autograph, the cleaning company that employed her at the hotel called and said that J.Lo had complained, and she was fired over the phone because of an autograph. Now, J.Lo has denied the claim. She was tweeting out saying like, thought you knew me better than this, would never get anyone fired over an autograph. First I heard of this was on Twitter, and it's like, okay, maybe you didn't say fire her, but you obviously complained because somebody wanted an autograph. In 2003, Endeavor Talent Agency reportedly gave J.Lo an ultimatum to either leave them or fire her manager Benny Medina, as they found him too high maintenance, at least according to news outlets. Well, in a shocking move, J.Lo did fire Medina, but then also fired her Endeavor agent Patrick Whitesell and signed with rival agency CAA. Now, this was during the time when J.Lo and Ben Affleck were a couple. Whitesell had long represented Ben Affleck and had added J.Lo a couple months before the firing. Despite gaining traction in her acting career and, once again being the girlfriend of Ben Affleck at the time, the agency still chose to put her in a tough position. And while it was J.Lo who kind of put the end on the professional relationship, Endeavor seemingly made it public that they didn't value her enough to figure out how to make things work with her manager. So see if you can spot the unsubtle shade in Endeavor's statement about the fallout, which attempted to make the firing seem like a mutual decision, while also throwing Medina under the bus and firing at J.Lo's decision making. Here's the quote, folks. Endeavor has parted company with Jennifer Lopez. Jennifer is an incredibly talented actress and a good friend, and we wish her much continued success. However, as an agency, we were no longer able to work with her manager, Benny Medina. We thought it best for Jennifer and Endeavor that we part company at this time. You literally could have taken out that that entire second last sentence. We did not need that. You could have just been like, oh, we wish her much continued success and ended it there. Would have been a lot less messy. Forbes credits makeup artist Scott Barnes with creating the signature technique that became J.Lo's iconic glow, which in turn became the preferred look of the era. The two had worked together since the year 2000, whether it was serving as J.Lo's personal makeup artist for her role in 2019's Hustlers or for the Super Bowl halftime performance. And while their working relationship and friendship spans 2 decades, there was a time where Barnes apparently didn't have her love. He spilled the beans during an interview on the Jeff Probst show after rumors circulated that he and 2 others leaked plans of J.Lo and Anthony's secret marriage. J.Lo's team completely shunned Barnes. He's like, nobody would talk to me. It was like I had like an incurable disease. And when the truth came out that Barnes did not leak the news or even know about the wedding ahead of time, he got a phone call, presumably from J.Lo, and he was like, oh, it was a call where it was like, hey, it was a big misunderstanding. You know, we have like a lot of stuff coming up and I really miss you, so let's just get back to work. And although Barnes was extremely diplomatic in his recounting of the temporary fallout, it's clear that he never got a direct apology. And by the way, they reconciled, but he's still choosing to talk about it, so obviously he's hurting. An ex-private airport employee called J.Lo a nightmare person on Twitter before dishing out several stories about negative interactions with the superstar. Twitter user @MoiraWebb claimed she worked at a private airport on Long Island when J.Lo was in a relationship with Mark Anthony. She's like, I have so many stories about her being a rude and nasty person. It's gross to say, but each time she fails at anything, it delights me. That's like next level hating. Like, surely, okay, we know J.Lo's bad, but like, is it that bad? So Webb told like 5 separate stories on Twitter about interactions with Lopez, and they range anywhere from the bizarre to just plain mean, but it sure seems like J.Lo doesn't care about people beyond herself. We have one of them today. So she had a standing catering order, even if she was only going like 20 minutes away, and one of those things on that rider was a KFC bucket. And she was flying out in the morning before KFC usually opens, and her team freaked out that they didn't have it there. She, you know, our narrator, was demanded to go get some. She was given some cash by the team. So she drove like a bat out of hell, begged KFC to open early, make one for her, and they were excited because they're like, oh my god, it's J.Lo! And they made one, but like our poor girl didn't have nearly enough cash, so thankfully they were like, okay, let's give you like a discount, we'll cover it, whatever. And as she's speeding back, she looks up and she sees the flight taking off. Even though like her entire team was like, she's not gonna leave without this KFC. They just sent her to do that as a punishment, I guess. Ben didn't want his love letters to Jennifer being made public in her new film, but insiders have claimed it wasn't because he had kept them a secret from his ex-wife. Because Jennifer Garner's fans were kind of outraged after Ben Affleck revealed that he clung on to his correspondence with J.Lo during his 13-year marriage, and then had those letters and emails bound into a book to gift to Jenny from the Block when they reunited in 2021. But insiders have quashed any notion that the admission shocked Garner. Apparently she was happy for Ben Affleck and J.Lo. She's friends with them, and she's also at peace in her current relationship. But Ben, on the other hand, would love for the outside world not to know about his love letters. Sure, he's a romantic, but you know, he's still a private kind of guy. He keeps his memories, whether it is from the movies he worked on or family, relationship moments. He always has what common folks call receipts. But then at the end of the day, nobody was surprised by J.Lo making things public because J.Lo wanted everybody to know about it. She was like, oh, this is our inspiration. Ben didn't know that she actually brought those into the studio until she told the world. According to several of J.Lo's former staff members, Jennifer earned herself the nickname Paylo because she paid her staff around 50% less than they could make elsewhere. And this rumor's been going on for years, so it's pretty much fact at this point. We're talking like 2003, which is like 20 plus years ago. J.Lo was spotted in Vegas with Ben Affleck when they were first dating. Right now we're in round 3, 2, depends on where you are on the timeline. The pair had a big win. Ben decided to drop $2,000 to the dealer, but before the dealer could actually like take his well-earned reward, J.Lo snatched up the cash, swapped it for $200. Now, people are like, okay, does she have a reason for paying her staff so little? She's like, yeah, I had to work hard to make my money, so like everybody else should. And like, I'm sorry, that's just embarrassing. If you had to work hard to earn what you earned, you should want to try and make it easier for others because you know how hard it is. It's just a really entitled point of view, and it's gross. Now, if you didn't know, earlier this year, J.Lo released her documentary on Prime. It's This Is Me Now, a love story. Gave a behind-the-scenes look into her album, This Is Me Now. If I'm sounding redundant, just you wait. The movie was called The Greatest Love Story Never Told. Until it was told, and now it's over. Sorry, my little ad lib there. Some fans who watched it took to social media to call her out for her lies. Because in one scene, she poses in the mirror of her personal gym because she's shaking out her hair. She's reminiscing about growing up in the Bronx. She's like, yeah, I like taking my hair like this. It reminds me like when I was 16 in the Bronx, running up and down the block. Crazy little girl who used to be effing wild, no limits, all dreams. But then come in TikTok user, photos by Angela, who's like, I went to the same Catholic high school as J.Lo, and J.Lo is lying. She said, and I quote, "We both attended an all-girls high school in an Irish and Italian neighborhood, so you weren't running up and down the block." Now, J.Lo's been long accused of some, fibbing and whatnot. One big fib, apparently she doesn't actually sing on her albums. Singer Natasha Ramos took to TikTok to shed light on that rumor. So Natasha has a voice pretty similar to J.Lo's, and was allegedly hired to sing the demo of Jenny from the Block. And the production team liked her voice so much that they asked her to record 5 more songs for an album, which, oh boy. Natasha received $3,500 in a backup singer's credit. But as she claims, and as the original demo demonstrates, yeah, it's her voice in the final track. And not only in the choruses, it's her laugh, it's her yelling from the Bronx. J.Lo, I think, only really sings in the verse. Speaking of stealing, J.Lo's notorious for stealing from other artists. Like, she caught her big break back in 1997 when she starred as the late Latin pop icon Selena in the biography of the same name. And after that film, J.Lo ventured into music. Her demo was picked up by music exec Tommy Mottola and Sony Music, and she dropped her debut album in summer of 1999. And one big hit from that album was If You Had My Love. You know it, you love it, we've all heard it. Well, that song got some backlash from R&B singer Shantae Moore, because Moore had a near identical song called If I Gave Love that she recorded a year prior in 1998. Both these songs were written and produced by Rodney Jerkins. It's been said that J.Lo's then boyfriend, whose name I probably shouldn't say on here, pressured Jerkins to write a near identical song. And J.Lo's stealing habits only got worse as time went on. This wasn't like a one and done. So using background vocals is not uncommon in the music industry. But the issue with J.Lo is that she's passed those off as her own. Songs like Play and the I'm Real remix feature prominent reference track vocals from Christina Milian. Ashanti, J.Lo and Ja Rule's music video for I'm in Real remix. Yeah, J.Lo used Ashanti's reference track vocals on the song and passed them off as her own. Yeah, instead of J.Lo re-recording the song, which is kind of what's normal in the industry, she left the demo vocals on the song and failed to credit anybody else. If I was to list everybody she's like stolen from over the years or attempted to steal from, we'd be here all day. But let's look at some notable names. Usher, Mariah Carey, Brandy Norwood. I could go on and on. Oh, and by the way, J.Lo's also been accused of lip syncing a lot during live performances. In 2021, fans flooded social media during her American Music Awards performance because they were very disappointed that her vocals did not match the studio version of her song On My Way. And then 2014, she was performing on American Idol, and folks were like, "No, you're lip syncing I Love Ya Poppy." We all saw it, we all know it. Not the right move. So in 2002, J.Lo starred in the romantic comedy Made in Manhattan. And she went all over the world promoting this, and when she landed in London, people were talking. They weren't talking about the movie though, they were talking about her demands. Because, well, she was there and, hanging out. She had a very interesting encounter with hotel staff. She was staying at the Metropolitan Hotel, and this is where the early signs of J.Lo being a career diva began to show. The hotel staff was astounded by her extravagant demands, because apparently it was reaching levels they'd never seen before. She was like, "I need thousands of pounds of lemon-scented candles. And also, if I'm even gonna go like a block around the corner, I need a limo." Literally, she had 7 limousines escort her to lunch at a place that was only 200 yards away. So maybe you think, well, Alexa, maybe she grew out of that. 2012 reports surfaced that Jenny from the Block demanded that staff working for her make no eye contact or even speak with her. While having work done on her San Fernando Valley home, she demanded that none of the helpers, drivers, or contractors have any interactions with her. And reportedly, when flying first class, she doesn't like anybody to bother her. Not even a flight attendant. And that's their job. They bother you for safety, if you need a snack. One time a flight attendant offered her a drink, and she was like, She said instead to her assistant, "Please tell him I'd like a Diet Coke and lime." Sure, this rumor hasn't really been confirmed, but come on, who does that? J.Lo had her former co-star Ryan Guzman fake his relationship status to hype up their movie almost 10 years ago. And we found this out from his ex-girlfriend who was with him at the time. So Melanie Iglesias called out J.Lo on the No Chaser podcast for how Jen acted during the 2015 The Boy Next Door press run. Because apparently J.Lo was holding hands with Ryan at after parties and acting like they were an item. But she knew fully well he had an actual girlfriend. The model says she even met J.Lo at an award show while she was dating Ryan, claiming she gave her an awkwardly firm handshake and an intimidating once-over, something Melanie says she was disappointed over, seeing as at the time she viewed J.Lo as a hero. And Melanie also pointed that when Ellen DeGeneres directly asked J.Lo on the show, "Doesn't he have a girlfriend?" J.Lo played dumb. She's like, I don't know. Girl, you knew. J.Lo faced a lot of backlash after revealing she was unhappy about sharing the stage with fellow artist Shakira at the 2020 Super Bowl. The duo took the stage by storm at the iconic annual halftime show, with their history-making performance attracting a lot of praise from fans and celebrities worldwide. But turns out, despite the actual success of the performance, J.Lo wasn't really happy with the NFL's decision to have her and Shakira take the stage together. She admitted in her Netflix documentary that we know way too much about that she thought it was the worst idea in the world. Shortly after those comments hit online, fans were like, okay, what's up with this entitled attitude? Arguing that regardless of time constraints, it was iconic. And it's like, girl, you went out, you did your thing.
Jennifer Lopez's new documentary is getting some mixed reviews, some believing she exposed too much of her personal life with Ben Affleck. First off, we see Ben talk about how he felt exposed after Jennifer shared a private book of their emails and letters. 20 years ago, I fell in love with the love of my life, and during that time I was making an album called This Is Me Then, Lopez is heard telling a crowd in the documentary. I hadn't made an album since then. Years later, we got back together and I was very inspired. The inspiration came after her, quote, Bible, she calls it, which was the book Affleck gave her on their first Christmas together. It is every letter and every email that we wrote to each other from 20 years ago to today, she says, sharing that he titled the, quote, Bible, The Greatest Love Story Never Told by Jennifer Lopez and Ben Affleck, 2001 to 2021 and counting. Lopez placed the book in the studio and let her collaborators go through it for song inspiration. To Ben's surprise, Ben appears shocked and surprised to find out that Lopez shared this private book he gave her with everyone in the studio. When talking to the artist working with Jennifer Lopez, Affleck discovers that they gave him a nickname. I was like, you've been showing all the musicians these letters? Affleck says in the documentary, and they were like, yeah, we call you Pen Affleck. And I was like, oh my god. In the documentary, we also learned that Ben had some serious reservations of his love story being shared so publicly. I did really find the beauty and the poetry and the irony in the fact that it's the greatest love story never told, he tells the cameras. And if you're making a record about it, that seems kind of like you're telling it. In another scene, Affleck expresses how it was an adjustment for him to have her share their private life with the entire world. Jen was really inspired by this experience, which is how artists do their work, he says. I certainly do the same things, but things that are private, I have always felt are sacred and special because, in part, they're private. So this was something of an adjustment for me. Ultimately, Ben comes to terms with Lopez's project after realizing it's not all about their relationship. I don't really love being in the making of a documentary about my personal life, which is why I'm so relieved that I'm not really, well, it seems like I might be in this, but I'm not really, he says. I was worrying for no reason. The movie wasn't about me. It was about the ability to love yourself, and that love story is a lot effing harder to find than Prince Charming. Next, we learned Ben had to make compromises when they got back together. Getting back together, I said, listen, one of the things I don't want is a relationship on social media, Ben says. Then I sort of realized it's not a fair thing to ask her. It's sort of like, you're gonna marry a boat captain, and you're like, well, I don't like the water. He added, we're just two people with kind of different approaches trying to learn to compromise. Next, we learned in the documentary that some A-list stars declined to be in the movie musical about her life that accompanies the documentary. In the documentary, Lopez reveals Anthony Ramos, the In the Heights star, was offered the role of her significant other in the rebound scene of the movie. He was going to do the rebound number with me and the glass house, she tells wardrobe supervisor Sean Barton during rehearsals, and he was like, I'm friends with Mark Anthony. Lopez was married to Mark Anthony from 2004 to 2014, and the pair share 16-year-old twins. The rebound scene that Anthony was supposed to be in shows Lopez in a toxic relationship with a drunken partner. The singer, however, never specifically mentions who the song and scene is about. We also see Jennifer crying about a past relationship and how it negatively impacted her self-esteem. She gets emotional as she recalls a relationship in which she says she was, quote, manhandled before she hit rock bottom and realized it was time to get out. out. Though she doesn't name the ex, singer and actress speaks candidly through tears about the experience and how it affected her going forward. Being thrown around and manhandled is not fun, she explains. I was never in a relationship where I got beat up, thank God, but I've definitely been manhandled in a couple of other unsavory things. Jen doesn't reveal who treated her that way, but her long career in showbiz has involved plenty of high-profile relationships in addition to her marriage now to Ben Affleck. Jennifer shares more about her past toxic relationships by saying, quote, there were people in my life who said I loved you and then didn't do things that were kind of in line with the word love. You have to hit rock bottom where you're in situations that are so uncomfortable and so painful that you finally go, I don't want this anymore. A therapist said to me, what if this was your daughter? What would you do? And it was so clear, she called. I was like, I'd tell her, get out of there and never look back. But for me, it was so clouded and so complicated with so much of my past and my own pain and hurt and dysfunction that I couldn't see clearly. It was like looking through fog. Jane Fonda had some honest words with Jennifer in the documentary while on a phone call with her. I want you to know that I don't entirely know why, but I feel invested in you and Ben, and I really want this to work, tells Jen of Ben Affleck on a call filmed for the documentary. However, this is my concern. Like, it feels too much like you're trying to prove something instead of just living it. You know, either every other photograph is kissing and the two of you hugging. Jennifer shrugs it off and laughs though. That's just us living our life, says. But Jane Fonda did have a point, and if Jennifer listened to her, it may have saved her from receiving horrendous reviews online after both movies came out. Some saying the movie musical is the worst movie ever made. One reviewer made a list called The Reasons Why This Sucked. I had no idea what was going on in the movie. There was no theme. Actually, there were too many themes. There were so many talented artists who were used more as props. They should have had bigger roles. This movie seems like an ode to herself for nailing down a man. It's not really about love. It's a movie about conquering a man. It's basically telling everybody that other relationships that her and Ben had were just filler until they could be together again. Her kids and Ben's kids are going to be watching this. Do they really need to know how much she loves making love to their dad? We all know it's not her voice singing those songs, and if it is, auto-tune should get a lot of credit, the reviewer says. The reviewer finishes off by saying she's narcissistic, way too in love with herself, and for people clicking more than 2 stars, did you actually watch it? Or are you just clicking on 5 stars because you love this egomaniac? Thoughts in the documentary on former co-star Jane Fonda's phone call, saying Jane is still very protective of her and felt like you're putting yourself out there to get beat up again. Jane Fonda's concerns resurfaced when she thinks about photos of the couple at the Grammy Awards, in which Ben Affleck's disinterested expression became the target of memes galore and gossip about the pair's relationship. I get real scared, you know, with all that about the Grammys, and he looks unhappy, and I'm like, oh my god, what's happening? Fonda told Jennifer. Nothing, replied. Jennifer Lopez also revealed she got multiple no thank yous from more fellow celebs that she hoped would appear with her in the movie. Taylor Swift, whom Jennifer joined on stage during Taylor's Red Tour 2013, declined, according to Today.com. Jason Momoa, Jennifer Coolidge, Lizzo, Vanessa Hudgens, Ariana Grande, and Snoop Dogg also allegedly declined. Khloe Kardashian was another potential celebrity cameo who dropped out. I don't want to force anybody to this who go, it's gonna be fun, Verse says in the film. Nobody wants to say no to me, Benny. I get that, she tells her manager, Benny Medina. But when an actor doesn't like a script good enough or is worried about it, that is what they'll say. Jennifer, who ultimately put $20 million of her own money in visual album, also admits in the film that the whole project made her nervous too. People are scared to put out there. I get it, she says. Took me a long time. I'm scared. I don't act like I'm scared. That's the secret to my whole effing career. Looking back on her childhood, Lopez also reveals that she felt very ignored by her dad and that her mother was always the center of attention. She got used to being around people who acted that way. Jen felt emotionally neglected as a child, Ben Affleck says. He continues drawing parallels between her longing for approval and his own past struggles with alcoholism. It's a hard thing to look at somebody whose professional life is wildly successful and who on Instagram looks like they're living the happiest life in the world. The thing you discover is there isn't enough alcohol in all the liquor stores in the world to fill up that thing. In Jennifer's case, I don't think there's enough followers or movies or records or any of that stuff. Part of you still feels a longing and and pain. Ultimately, that's the work that you gotta do on your own.
Does Ben Affleck secretly hate J.Lo's level of fame? A recent interview with Kevin Hart has just shed some light on this debated topic. Hart's Peacock series, Heart to Heart, is a talk show that brings on A-listers to showcase their true self. Affleck was the A-lister for the season 4 premiere. A good choice considering everyone wants to know what's been up with him lately. People have been wondering if Affleck secretly dislikes his wife's level of fame. He certainly didn't help his case when he said it was effing bananas, which could mean nothing. Although he is right to say it, J.Lo's fame level is off the charts. In context, the actor had been telling a story about him and his family when they were in NYC and on their way to a Broadway show. However, due to bad traffic or something, they had to get out and walk the remainder of the way to the theater to make sure they were going to be on time. Affleck recalls that once out of the car and into Times Square, people immediately reacted to J.Lo, running backwards to get videos and pictures and screaming. It was, as Affleck claims, effing bananas. If Affleck does hate J.Lo's fame, he is trying to keep that under wraps, finishing off his story saying his wife was amazing. Sometimes secrets between couples are a good thing, and it can be a serious breach of trust when those secrets get shared without one party's consent. That's exactly what happened between Lopez and Affleck when J.Lo shared the love letters Ben had written to her, and he didn't find out until it already happened. Affleck is a very private guy. That has been made abundantly clear over the years. That means he is also not one to share many comments about his personal relationships. That doesn't mean he isn't a romantic. He clearly is, if the love letters he wrote for J.Lo are anything to go by. However, it seems that in his perfect world, we would never know about these love letters, especially not the content in them. But once those letters left his hands for J.Lo's, he lost control over who reads them. J.Lo let some musicians read the contents of the letters in hopes it would inspire them. This happened while filming the documentary about her movie. Ben allegedly had no idea this was going to happen, which some people say is a serious breach of trust. Even though Affleck appeared taken aback, he seems to have accepted that it happened, and that if J.Lo wants to call the film the greatest love story never told, the letters about said love story should probably be in it. Affleck hates the spotlight, old news. J.Lo loves the spotlight, also old news. Opposites attract, but there is only so long people can go on pretending they enjoy something they secretly hate. Affleck has been making it clear that he would prefer to be out of the picture rather than in it. Back at the 2023 Grammys, Affleck made it quite clear he didn't want to be the center of attention that night, leading to a clip of a small disagreement between him and J.Lo going viral online. The couple were on camera in the first place because the host, Trevor Noah, was doing like a little bit right beside them. It was impossible to not have the couple in the shot. In the viral clip, you can see Affleck lean forward to whisper something in J.Lo's ear, something she clearly didn't like, as it looks like she's angry with Affleck, says some stern words, and lightly hits him on the chest before turning back around, realizing where the camera is, and smiling. People were quick to comment on this interaction with things like "Free Ben" and "Affleck looks miserable." It was causing such a ruckus that Affleck actually ended up clearing the air in a later interview. He shared that the interaction was simply another addition of him being camera shy, saying, "I saw Trevor Noah and I was like, oh god, they were framing us in the shot, but I didn't know they were rolling. I leaned into her and I was like, as soon as they start rolling, I'm going to slide away from you." To which J.Lo's response was apparently, "You better effing not leave." So she was actually a bit upset with him because he didn't want to be on camera, which could mean nothing in the long run, but if we are looking at the long run of this couple so far, this seems to be a common theme. Ben Affleck's recent home switch has many turning heads. Him and J.Lo were living together in a mansion they purchased in 2023 for $60.8 million. Now it seems Ben has either moved out or is simply spending some time in a different mansion. The rental the actor is staying at is notably closer to where his ex, Jennifer Garner, lives, which could mean nothing. It also could mean he just wants to live closer to his kids, especially with so many milestones happening, like his daughter's graduation, for example. People are still keeping a close eye on said rental, hoping to get some info about what is going down, or maybe if J.Lo is staying there too. Some would argue no. After after the incident at Affleck's daughter's graduation party. Affleck and J.Lo attended together and were seen leaving together in his car, heading back to the rental. However, once they got there, J.Lo was not sticking around, allegedly getting out of one car and into the next before presumably heading home. Now photos of the couple's $60 million mansion are back on Zillow. Nothing has been confirmed yet regarding whether or not the couple is actually selling their property, but the secret photos are an interesting move. Speaking of spending time apart, it looks like Affleck is hanging around making headlines in LA right now, while J.Lo is off vacationing in Europe. If J.Lo wanted to keep this mini vacay on the down low, it is not working. Photos have hit celebrity gossip sites of the singer on boats taking selfies because she looks great on a boat in Italy. I think we would all snap a few selfies in that situation. Notably, J.Lo's husband, he's not there with her. This absolutely might be due to a work-related reason. Affleck does seem quite busy between his current projects being filmed and running Artist Equity with longtime partner in crime Matt Damon. Sources that claim to be close to J.Lo have given some insight into why Ben and J.Lo might be apart right now, saying, "Jen loves vacationing in Europe during the summer. It's been nice for her to experience a change of pace and have some breathing room. So it seems like maybe J.Lo just needs some time away, which could mean nothing." The source confirmed that J.Lo is having a good time with her girls, doing the kind of stuff that is allegedly not really Affleck's scene, like staying out late, getting dressed up to go shopping, dancing, and things like that. The source confirmed that all that isn't really Affleck's thing, saying that's never really been Ben's scene, even when him and Jen weren't having any issues. They did clarify that though Affleck is not there with his wife, J.Lo isn't letting that dampen her vacation, which, good for her, she's partying the night away in Europe, she should be feeling her best doing that. It's come out that J.Lo allegedly has rules that Affleck must follow, ranging from some that align with Affleck's lifestyle already, and a few that are unexpected, at least to the public. Some rules that Affleck allegedly must follow that he was probably already doing are working out and not smoking or drinking. One of the newer, surprising rules are no female flight attendants on their flights. When the public found out about this little secret rule, people were quick to call J.Lo controlling and overbearing. However, there might be a reason J.Lo allegedly has a rule like this. A past ex of hers, Mark Anthony, allegedly had an affair with a female flight attendant. Ben Affleck has been caught without his wedding ring more than once, which is not a good look amid rumors of divorce. Just a few days ago, the star was out to lunch with his oldest daughter, and NY Post reports that he wasn't wearing his wedding ring, which could mean nothing. One time that Affleck was seen without his ring definitely did mean nothing. The Accountant 2 is in production right now, so Affleck has been filming for that for the past little bit. While on set, he was spotted without his wedding ring, but as I mentioned before, they were filming. The missing ring likely had more to do with filming the movie than anything happening in his personal life. He was seen wearing it the next day as he headed to work, so he is really keeping people on their toes with this one. One big secret everyone wants to uncover is why Affleck and Lopez have been attending some events solo. It's a big mystery everyone wants to solve, and the official statements from the stars are making some people more suspicious than anything else. The biggest event J.Lo attended alone would have to be this year's Met Gala. The singer was a co-chair for the event, but showed up noticeably single. She looked great on the carpet as she headed in to host the biggest fashion event of the year, but people just couldn't shake that Affleck wasn't there beside her. The official reason given by a rep for Affleck was that he was filming The Accountant 2 in LA and just couldn't make it out. An unofficial statement comes from an alleged friend of Affleck's that he maybe opted out simply because he hates the Met Gala and it's not his scene. What is interesting is the day before the Met Gala, Affleck was present for the roast of Tom Brady, even giving a speech. Many wonder why he was able to get time off for that and not the Met Gala. Though they are on completely different sides of the country and he was already in LA, which could mean nothing. When it came out that J.Lo not only tries to control how much Affleck tips those in the service industry, but also will secretly exchange larger tips for smaller ones, people were in disbelief. Multiple people have shared their encounters serving J.Lo and Ben in some way on TikTok, leading to some pretty viral videos. Most stories have one thing in common: J.Lo is not fun to serve. One former casino employee claimed in a video uploaded to TikTok that J.Lo would either encourage Affleck to leave smaller tips for employees, or if he'd left something big, circle back later and exchange the tip for something smaller, like
likely without her husband knowing, but not always. In one particular instance of this, Affleck was allegedly present when it happened and allegedly looked mortified. Now some servers claim Affleck doesn't tip at all anymore, which could mean nothing. Is it possible that Affleck has been keeping his true feelings about his marriage to J.Lo under wraps? It looks like, if we trust a recent source that has come forward claiming that Affleck said his marriage to J.Lo was made in a burst of temporary insanity. This source has single-handedly caused the most drama for this couple over the past few months, and with claims like Affleck has come to his senses after years of being in a fever dream regarding his marriage to J.Lo, it's not hard to see why. The source spoke to Page 6, saying if there was a way to divorce on grounds of temporary insanity, he would. He feels like the last 2 years were just a fever dream, and he's come to his senses now and understands there is just no way this is going to work. Now that's quite a big statement to make, and it could mean nothing, but the way Ben and J.Lo have been acting for the past few months has led to this source gaining validity every day.
Not even a month after their 10-year wedding anniversary, Jennifer Garner and Ben Affleck announced that they were getting a divorce. This came as a surprise to a lot of people, as throughout their marriage they seemingly had a very healthy relationship. Now it turns out that was not the case for as long as we thought. When the pair did divorce, there were rumors going around that Ben had formed a relationship with their children's nanny. Now of course he denied these rumors, with a rep for Ben saying that the story was complete garbage and full of lies. However, later in a conversation with Vanity Fair, Jennifer Garner confirmed that yes, Ben had an affair with their nanny. She said that there were lots of reasons for their split, but this was definitely not something you can ignore. She then went on to say, it's not great for your kids for a nanny to disappear from their lives. I've had to have conversations with my children about the meaning of a scandal, she said. Now in that same interview, the actress said, no one needs to hate him for me, I don't hate him, certainly we don't have to beat the guy up, don't worry, my eyes were wide open during the marriage. Next is Jen wanting a baby. Now a source exclusively told Life in Style that J.Lo has been trying to persuade Ben to have a baby via surrogate, and claims that she finally got him to cave in. The source says Jennifer has become passionate about getting yet another second chance, having a baby with Ben. She nagged him until he went along with it, added the source. Ben was completely happy with the blended family they already have, but he loves kids, that's why he agreed to having another. At the end of the day, he wants Jennifer to be happy. But I mean, it doesn't really feel like he wants another kid. Now Ben has 3 children from his previous marriage, while Jen has 2. Now they're allegedly in the planning stage, with Jen looking at surrogates, but with the rumors of a divorce and the pair currently living apart for the time being, adding another kid into the equation doesn't sound like a good idea at all. Then there's Ben's addiction. Ben has been open about his addiction to alcohol. He first checked into a rehab facility in 2001, completing a 30-day residential rehabilitation program for alcohol abuse. He then sought treatment for alcoholism on several occasions in the years since, getting professional help in 2008, 2017, and again in 2018 after his divorce from Jennifer Garner was finalized. Now he briefly relapsed in 2019, but said he wouldn't let it derail him, admitting it happens, it's a slip. Now that same year, the actor acknowledged that being an alcoholic is something that he deals with on a daily basis, saying on the Today Show, it doesn't have to subsume my whole identity and be everything, but it's something that you have to work at. Now since Ben's addiction has played out so publicly, it's become unfortunately common for fans to speculate about his health, particularly after he married Jennifer Lopez. For example, a video clip of Jennifer and Ben having a seemingly tense conversation at the premiere for her movie Shotgun Wedding went viral in January after fans suspected the pair were arguing over Ben's drinking. Now that things appear to be rocky between the two, maybe Ben has relapsed again. Now let's talk about Jen exposing their relationship. Ben was taken aback when Jen shared with songwriters the private letters that he wrote to her to serve as an inspiration for her upcoming album, This Is Me Now. Per Variety, in a preview for her forthcoming Amazon Prime documentary, The Greatest Love Story Never Told, Jen had invited musicians to their home and gave them access to Ben's love letters. Now ironically, Ben walked in at that very moment and was surprised to see the letters being passed around. I did really find the beauty and the poetry and the irony in the fact that it's the greatest love story never told, he said to the camera. If you're making a record about it, that seems kinda like telling it. Now reacting to the way J.Lo shared Ben's private letters, several Twitter users admitted that they found it invasive. Sharing personal love letters with a bunch of people without the writer's permission seems like a very weird thing to do, one person wrote. Literally cannot imagine sharing love letters with strangers, this is so invasive, another user said. When you write something deeply intimate to your partner that that comes from a very vulnerable place, one of the worst things a partner can do is show these to others, someone tweeted. Another one said, it's truly inconsiderate to release it without telling him, especially considering he was probably being vulnerable. Another user agreed. And I gotta say, I think it was a bad move on Jen's part. On to relationship rules. Jennifer's relationships are often in the spotlight, as she's been in several high-profile relationships that made headlines all over the world. From 2004 to 2011, she was married to Mark Anthony, and they had twins together. In 2017, she made headlines again when she broke the news that she was dating former New York Yankee Alex Rodriguez. Now, rumors spread that J.Lo would only consider marrying A-Rod if he agreed to a list of demands. Reportedly, he'd not be allowed to talk to any woman under the age of 40, which is just super controlling and gross. And additionally, J.Lo loved his physique and wanted a guarantee that he wouldn't let himself go once they got married. Now, none of these rumors have actually been confirmed, but it does seem pretty realistic to me. Now, we know that Jen and A-Rod didn't work out as she's now married to Ben, but I'm sure she has rules for him too, which is just unfortunate. Then there's the fact that Jen is a diva. Now, according to several of J.Lo's former staff members, Jennifer earned herself the nickname Pay-Lo because she paid her staff around 50% less than they could make elsewhere. Now, this rumor has been going on for years. As you see, way back in 2003, Jennifer was spotted in Vegas with her then boyfriend, Ben Affleck. Now, the pair had a big win, and Ben decided to drop a $2,000 tip to the dealer, but before he could scoop up the generous award, J.Lo snatched up the cash and swiped it for $200 instead. Now, Jennifer's reason for paying her staff so little: she had to work hard to earn her money, so should everyone else. Now, this is just so embarrassing for her. If she had to work hard to earn her money, shouldn't she try to help make it easier for others because she knows how hard it is? She just seems so entitled, and it's just gross. Moving on to Ben not liking the spotlight. Now, at a separate point in Jennifer's documentary about her album, Ben discusses the subject of privacy more broadly when talking about his and Jen's relationship, which was rekindled in 2021, almost 2 decades after they called off their 2002 engagement. He said, "Things that are private, I always felt are sacred and special because in part they're private." He added, "When Jen and I broke up before," he said, while looking back at the end of their engagement in 2003, "the catalyst for that was this massive amount of scrutiny around our private life." However, he did suggest that the couple didn't necessarily share the same viewpoints when it came to having a romance in the public eye. "I had a very firm sense of boundaries initially around the press, while Jen, I don't think, objected to it the way I did," the star continued, "and I very much did object to it." Now we have J.Lo's failing tour. So we all know that J.Lo released an album called This Is Me Now, and she made a movie for it, and then a documentary for it. Now, it debuted at a disappointing number 38 on the Billboard 200, but despite this, J.Lo decided that she would go on tour with this album. Now, J.Lo first announced this tour in the middle of February, initially as This Is the Me Now tour. A week later, another 3 shows were added, but however, in mid-March, several tour dates were quietly removed without explanation. Then, the tour's name had been changed from This Is Me Now to This Is Me Live, The Greatest Hits. So instead of it being a tour for that specific album, she's having one of her own era's tours. Now, it's been cited that low ticket sales is a possible reason for emphasizing J.Lo's back catalog. Us Weekly reported that Jen was disappointed in the tour's lackluster ticket sales, but remained proud of the new projects. Jennifer is very focused on her latest project and doesn't want bad press to get in her head, they said. Now, if you go to Ticketmaster, there are a lot of tickets left, which is honestly just embarrassing. She should just play smaller venues or lower her ticket prices. Next up is not spending time together. Now, Ben and J.Lo have not been spotted together recently. For example, at the beginning of May, Jen attended the Met Gala all by herself. Now, this was shocking because Jen was a co-chair for the gala, but Ben was missing from the event. Now, Ben has been filming The Accountant too, and it's said that he skipped the event because of his schedule, but the night before, he was spotted at Tom Brady's roast in LA. Not to mention that J.Lo is gearing up for her tour, This Is Me Live, The Greatest Hits. Now, she'll be on the road from June 28th to August 17th, and with her being so busy with this, she won't really have that much time to spend with Ben, and it will just put more space in between the two. Not to mention, even now, she has so many rehearsals for the tour, maybe all the time apart will be negative and will really result in them getting a divorce. And And finally we have their fights. Now a lot of the pair's fights have been caught on camera and it's been awkward. Ben found himself at the center of attention after he was shown looking bored and miserable while he and Jen attended the Grammys. The pair went viral once again after the cameras caught them having yet another tense-looking exchange. In the clip, Ben could be seen leaning in to whisper in Jen's ear, only for her to turn her head suddenly and sternly say something to him. She then puts her hand to her chest and looks to tell Ben to sit up as he immediately adjusts his posture. Fans on Twitter had a field day guessing about what the husband and the wife duo could have possibly been fighting about, with people speculating that Ben's unusual behavior on the night may have been because he was drinking.